I was counting this down for an intro, but I guess fuck that. Welcome to episode 2 of History Niggas.
History niggas.
We'll get it eventually.
Yeah, we'll get it.
Let us know in the comments what you thought of the last one, who you think won, Genghis Khan or Alexander the Great. We got another banger for you this time. Another fire entry. Another versus, as you fucking Zoomers call it. One of the greatest empires in human history. One of the
And the Assyrians.
in human history. The Neo-Assyrian Empire will be facing,
Boo.
I guess, 300s Sparta.
The Spartans, baby.
No, like the Lartans, because we're taking so many
Bro.
L's today.
The original Chads of history. There's no one before the Spartans that were Chads. Chads and Tyrone.
Before the Spartans that were Chads.
None of them came from the Assyrian.
But we don't know. We don't know their names because this is even more important. Neo-Assyria was so gangster, so badass, so G, that their enemies so bad, we barely have any of their actual records from them about them.
Wait,
Because their
what?
enemies wanted to erase them from history so thoroughly that they just burned it all, almost.
See, the Spartans, on the other hand, their enemies respected them so much. Rome respected them so much that it was a place of just greatness. So they left it.
Tourism?
It was historic. It was a historical site.
It was a place of tourism.
They respected it, bro.
It was nothing. Just like it
They
was
realized
your
the
best friend
Spartans.
Alexander. It was past its time. Overrated.
They realized the Spartans had saved them, had saved the whole West.
By losing
So they left.
at Thermopylae. My ear itches.
Losing, but changing history forever. Even the Romans respected them. Great men. God, I miss them.
Yeah, great sodomizing men.
Coming with the territory, man.
What did he say?
They're just chads like that. It's camaraderie. It's brother and brother, meat to meat.
What did he say?
Grown men inside little boys. Can't condone that. Grown men inside grown men. Don't condone that, but that's for a completely different reason.
It's character development. It made those little boys stronger. They wanted to fight.
No, that's not what you want to say. No.
It's a reason why.
I don't condone that.
It's a reason why they were so good at fighting.
No.
Everything they did, didn't kill them, made them stronger. And the Persians learned that.
In Rome, if 2 male legionaries were caught having intercourse, they'd be put to death. So I don't think it made them better at fighting.
I mean, the Romans, they were off shrooms, so we don't give a fuck about what they got to say for
I
them.
think probably what made Sparta better at fighting is that for a long time, they had the only professional military in their area. I think that's probably the
Yeah. Yeah, true. And then the Athenians made like one of the greatest navies in the world. 80,000 sailors, so professional sailors. So you can say that for a little bit of Sparta's history, but you can't say that for most.
Sailors soldiers.
I mean, yeah, they're soldiers. They're part of the military.
For one, but that's completely different. Especially the type and time of training for a soldier of that type, a sailor, and like a hoplite, completely different. They don't like easily flip-flop between each other. And that's why Athens lost the Peloponnesian War, did it not?
Yeah, they lost.
And then one other place in Greece finally has the idea, maybe I should make a professional military. Professional, not even a whole military. It doesn't need to be professional. Let's make a professional unit. And then immediately, Sparta's done.
I mean, the Persians had professional soldiers, and they didn't beat the Spartans.
10,000, allegedly. They didn't have a whole bunch. And if they did beat the Spartans.
They won a few battles. I don't even know if the Persians won a few battles, honestly.
They won the whole war. They won the Battle of Thermopylae.
Yeah. We don't really count that as a victory for the Persians, though. It's a victory on the stat sheet, but it demoralized Persians, Persian generals, Persian commanders, all the way down to the Persian peasants. Everyone was scared of the Spartans.
That's what the Greek sources say.
I mean, it's everyone knows that. Everyone knows that the Persians were scared because they it halted the advance. Actually, it don't even matter if the Persians were scared. It united all of Greece. Thermopylae. It made them have courage to fight, and then the Greeks had more confidence, and the Persians knew that they had more confidence.
And the Persians still accomplished their goals, so that seems like a win for Persia. And Persia, Neo-Assyrian Empire, Mongols, Sparta.
I mean, okay, Sparta started way smaller than all three of those, though.
Sparta didn't start smaller than Neo-Assyria. The whole Assyria started from a small city of Ashur. One little city became one little kingdom, became an empire. And while the Spartans were using bronze, the Neo-Assyrian Empire was using iron. How many Spartans were there? Like, in the military?
I don't know, but they fielded an army of 40,000 one time. That was the biggest army they could assemble.
Wow.
And most of them were the Helots.
Oh.
Most of that army was the Helots.
How many of them were Spartans?
Had to be less than 15,000.
Spartiates, as they were called.
Oh, I remember there was 7 Helots per Spartan soldier. So I don't know what the math is for that. 7.
Let's do it. Okay, so 40,000. How would you do that? You take 40,000.
7 per 1 Spartan soldier.
Divided by...
So 7 divided by 40,000 divided by 7.
Divided by 7. That's 5,714.
I think that's number of total Spartan soldiers.
So there were 5,000 Spartans. Are you sure it was 7?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was 4.
Oh, that battle they had 7.
That's cool.
That was the biggest army they could assemble. That's the biggest army they ever fielded. Was the 40,000.
What battle was that?
No idea.
So they did.
Let me look it up.
5,000 Spartans. That's crazy. Only
according to Herodotus, though. So this Herodotus, my bad. The Spartan, he said that according to Herodotus, the Spartans sent 45,000 men, 5,000 full citizen soldiers, 5,000 Lacedaemonian hoplites, Perioci, and 35,000 Helots, 7 per Spartan. This was probably the largest Spartan force ever assembled. But, I mean, it's Herodotus, so we don't fucking know. This could be complete horseshit. But he said 45,000. That's the most he's ever said of Spartans. 5,000 full citizens.
Let's look up the reforms of Nabis real quick.
Oh, that was Plataea. That's when they fucked up the Persians. They killed their general when they defeated the biggest empire. They killed the general on the field and routed the army.
Yeah, because Sparta, their force of professionals, was fighting a force of mainly non-professionals. So I would hope
Mainly, but the Persians were some were well trained and well armored. There's a story of a cavalryman falling off his horse, a Persian cavalryman falling off his horse, Herodotus, and they couldn't kill him. Even though he fell off his horse, they couldn't find a way to kill him because he was so well armored. But I don't know, Herodotus. Can't really say too much about him. You don't know what the fuck that dude.
Let's say that's the case. There were 5,000. There were 10,000. There were 5,000 veterans. We'll say another 5,000. We could call them professionals, semi-professionals. Neo-Assyria regularly fielded armies of 50,000 men. Regularly. And they could draw from a manpower of anywhere between 325,000 and 500,000 men. All of them being semi-professional. A good, solid majority of them being professional soldiers equipped in iron armor and iron weapons.
All right. Here, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be a real fantasy question, but try your best. Replace the Persian Empire at the time of the Peloponnesian Wars. Replace it with the Neo-Assyrians. And they have all the resources the Persians have. Do they take over? Would they lead better armies than Xerxes?
Greece would not have existed.
Say that very confidently.
Yes, Neo-Assyrian infantry was basically the same thing as a Greek hoplite. Maybe a little less armored, but they had iron armor. So it kind of balances out. However, unlike the Spartans, they also had cavalry. Experienced, trained cavalry. And they also had chariots, which in this case probably wouldn't matter that much. But they also had a crap ton of archers. A lot of archers. Not as many as the Persians would have had, according to Dan Carlin, but a lot of archers. I think and if they're sending multiple armies of 50,000, these aren't your armies of Xerxes. Xerxes, I don't know, maybe he was doing some stuff in the east, but, we don't know of him as like a super great commander or whatever. He had numbers, but Neo-Assyria also would have had numbers, and they would have had the experience. And their equipment, this is a really big thing, I think, that separated like the Greek world from the Persian world. Assyria had like to focus on Babylonia and Egypt and blah blah. All those places had their own like heavy infantry to contend with. So Neo-Assyria, they created their own very good heavy infantry. And then they incorporated like other people's stuff. But Persia wasn't as they didn't have to worry about that especially at the time of Xerxes. They were more focused on the east and the aforementioned Egypt. So they developed a way of fighting towards fighting the east in Egypt. Their infantry, like their spearmen and whatnot, became much less important. And their archers and their cavalry became not so much the cavalry. The cavalry kind of stayed. And it got less veteran, less experienced, less armored. But more just like, But their archers became way more important.
Oh, yeah.
And as we saw, that couldn't do it. That, like, the way the Persians fought I think, is basically they had a thin line, spearmen, cavalry on the flanks, a bunch of archers, because they were just literally blasting their usually steppe nomad enemies off the field, just eradicating them with bow fire. And that's what they tried to do in Greece. Didn't work.
So you're saying the Greeks fought differently than top of Africa and other places the Persians could lay their hands on, different from the entire other world. So the Greeks survived. And the Spartans whipped the motherfucking Persians off the field.
The Persians. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Neo-Assyria versus the Persians.
How did Neo-Assyrian Empire end?
Oh,
again?
Fantastic story. So, I don't remember the king's name. I believe, but I could be wrong, nerds. I believe Ashurbanipal he's declared the heir of the empire, and his brother is made king of Babylonia. And that works out for a time. Then his brother declares, he starts funding Elam. And Elam rebels. So Ashurbanipal destroys Elam, f***s it up. And then he finds out that it was his brother who had been funding them, and then Babylonia, they revolt. And then the Assyrian Empire fights a civil war. And that's never good for you. And then I believe some other crap happens, but the Medes, the Scythians, the Persians, the Chaldeans, and the Elamites, they all rebel at the same time. And Neo-Assyria, because it was recovering from this civil war, and B, just fighting so many, couldn't hack it. How did Sparta? Well, Sparta didn't have an empire. Silly.
Wait, one second though. You said the Medes. I think you said the Syrians.
No.
Right.
Scythians.
Scythians, okay. You said the Medes, the Scythians, and the Babylonians, right?
And the Elamites, and the Persians.
And the Elamites. Yeah. So, didn't the Persians end up taking over the Medes and the Babylonians, just for the record? I'm pretty sure the Persians integrated Babylonians and the Medes into their own empire.
Yeah.
Maybe the Scythians too.
What did I just say in that story? Neo-Assyria had just crushed the revolting Babylonians. And within that same lifetime, that same area, with the support of other people, rebels. You know who else the Persians allegedly, according to Herodotus, lost to? The Scythians. So, I mean, you're fighting the next 5 under you, and you still manage to put up a good fight. What happened to Sparta? They didn't have an empire. So, what happened to their hegemony?
Well, what happened to Sparta was they loved fighting. They were so good at fighting. And they ended up killing off their own population. So, when the Thebans came around, they just wanted to take down the boss. They wanted to take down the top dog. And they ended up destroying the Spartans. But after a long reign of controlling Greece, not just through outright total domination on the field, but military diplomacy, trade agreements, they were tacticians of the field, of the court. They were smart people, and they were great warriors.
So were the Neo-Assyrians. Plus, they were learned. They were feared. Incredibly feared by absolutely everybody.
We're talking about fear? You're talking about the Spartans and comparing the Spartans?
Neo-Assyria is in the Bible because they're so feared. It was thought that the stuff that was said about them in the Bible was just propaganda. It was just typical Jewish propaganda. Turns out, it was actually worse. The Neo-Assyrians were famous for the horrific stuff they would do to the people that oppose them. Flaying, which is removing their skin. Hanging, crucifying, all that good stuff. All of it. And if Sparta was so feared and blah, 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 why didn't they have an empire?
I don't think they had the resources. Once again, the Spartans, they were better than the rest of the Greeks. So why would you want to turn the rest of the Greeks into Spartan soldiers when you're better than them? It was all about pride. They liked being the underdog. They came from nothing.
They didn't need to turn them into Spartan soldiers. They probably would have done what they did with like the rest of the Helots and turn them into slaves.
True. But once again,
resources of Greece. And you know what? You said Thebes. Let's go into it. It's not even like it was some incredible battle. They got shit on by Thebes.
I don't know. Their head wasn't in the game. I don't know what to say about that.
Their king got killed in. Okay, I don't remember if it's Tagira or Leuctra. Excuse me. I think it's Tagira. Tagira, like 300 Thebans, the Sacred Band, who it doesn't matter. The Sacred Band and a little bit of cavalry, led by, I think, either Epaminondas or Pelopidas, and like 2,000 Spartans. 300 Thebans. The Spartans form up in front of these Thebans. They say, hey, you can't pass. And Pelopidas or Epaminondas, doesn't matter. Both Greeks, both Thebans, says, get f***ed. So they keep marching forward. The Spartans, the revered, renowned, oh so scary Spartans, get scared. Get a little bit scared. And they decide to let the Thebans through. As they're doing so, Thebans turn on the Spartans from the inside. Cavalry comes, whammo, kills them. Easy day. What kind of an army, what kind of a bitch-made little army is that?
They're just lucky Leonidas died at Thermopylae because he would not let that shit slide.
There was like
that's all I gotta say
between Thermopylae in that battle. So they had time to get another king in there. The entire Peloponnesian Wars where Spartans established their dominance over Greece in a way. That had happened. What's the excuse then?
I don't know. My boys were slipping. I really don't know what to say. My boys were slipping. They had close competitors. They they did well. First of all, I think the Spartans fought with more respect, and they didn't expect the Thebans to, just betray. It was basically kind of like almost war crime at that point.
But crime. That's what I say that.
I don't know, I pulled that one out of my ass, but
weak is what it sounds like to me.
I mean, at that point, yeah.
They may have been a little made.
At that point, yeah, we can say that. But every nation has their downfall. But we're talking about the end of the Spartans' life. We're not talking about everything else they had achieved.
Tigera and Leuctra, and there wasn't that much. There was a little bit of time between that and
at the end of the day, the Spartans were crucial to saving Greece. If it wasn't for the Spartans, the Thebans wouldn't even have been there to defeat the Spartans on their last leg. If it wasn't for the Spartans, Greek culture might not even exist, and that changes the rest of history. They saved the West from the Persian invaders, and that alone is better than anything the Assyrians have ever done.
Bullshit, dude. At some point in time, okay, so the Neo-Assyrian Empire ended in the 6th something the 6-somethings BC.
Mhm.
So at some time, this was where civilization was, right? Where actual civilization was. Like Sumeria, the Fertile Crescent, writing came from, all the really important stuff, not just like boy orgies that we got from Greece. A massive horde of horse people comes in. Only stopped by the Neo-Assyrians. Way more important to history as a whole, but also, I don't think that's true. Persia was pretty hands-off. Very hands-off in terms of rule. So why would Western culture have gone away? But that doesn't, even before you answer that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about their little cultural impact at all. We're talking military versus military.
Yeah.
Assyria versus Sparta.
The Spartans, no introduction needed. Regarded as some of the best warriors of all time. So I need you to explain why the Assyrians were better militarily wise than the Spartans. Because I think we all know the Spartans.
Besides the reason I just listed, saying we all know the Spartans or like we all know Alexander is a terrible argument. Because we, as in the majority of people, are f***ing stupid and they don't know history. So that's not an argument to have. If you look at Sparta's actual accomplishments, you look at the opponents they fought, it has, and the numbers alone, 350,000 versus 10,000, 350,000 to 500,000 versus 10,000, iron, bronze, both of them both of them have heavy infantry, experienced, professional, heavy infantry. Okay. One of them also has cavalry, also has archers, also has chariots, and also has more than 10,000 people. Also, doesn't have to plug their little boys in the pooper. And, but really, honestly, the only point I really need, Neo-Assyria had the largest empire in human history up until the Persian Empire. And the reason the Persian Empire was larger is because Persia took over a already broken Neo-Assyrian Empire, giving it all of the Neo-Assyrian Empire plus a little bit. Well, I mean, in a way. Long story short.
Interesting. And
Did
those,
Sparta have an empire?
I mean, they controlled Greece and all of them respected the Spartans. So they indirectly controlled Greece. They didn't have an empire though. But they indirectly, they led their league and they were top dog, basically.
For a little fraction of time.
Little fraction of time. I mean,
Empire was not, Sparta would have been a regional power. Neo-Assyria Neo-Assyria in its time was the world superpower.
just like the point used against the Spartans, because their military was better. As in, only professional.
No,
You're the first professional.
I just said earlier, Babylon had professionals. Freaking Elamites, all of them had good heavy infantry.
That's when they got destroyed.
Had good chariotry. What?
That's when they destroyed them. But the reason why Assyria grew, correct me if I'm wrong, is because they had the first professional military. That's why they grew so much, to make the empire. And then when other cities...
Eventually, yeah, they had a professional military. But The others around them would have like all had a similar military tradition. We say the first professional military, A, because that's what comes to us, but also we literally see from the people they're fighting the exact same way. These people seem pretty professional too. And it doesn't matter. It's head to head. Sparta, Neo-Assyria. There's no competition. Neo-Assyria dubs it.
Well, are we not counting the Spartans allies?
No.
Just straight hit the head.
Yeah.
Because the Assyrians, do you know they had a lot of allies?
No.
Oh, they didn't.
They
weren't fucking
installed
around.
a pharaoh in Egypt. That was their ally. Egypt. They probably got some slaves from Nubia. So
What, you don't think Greece could, the time period, did they have naval ships, Assyrians?
no.
They didn't have no naval ships. Well, Athens would blockade some shit.
Oh,
And
what are they gonna blockade? You're gonna send your navy to Iraq?
Egypt, they didn't have no ports or nothing.
Okay, actually, that's probably not entirely true. They would have had a navy, but it's like they would have had the Egyptian navy, but I don't know how that stacks up. But it's what are they? They're gonna raid Egypt, blockade Egypt. Cool. What's that gonna do to the heartland of the empire? You know?
Yeah. But shit. On the other hand, the Spartans, like I said before, saviors of Greece. Undeniable saviors of Greece. No one else could do it. They not only saved Greece, they stopped Persians, or they halted Persians from just expanding elsewhere because they had lost confidence. They had lost men. According to Plutarch, I mean not according to Plutarch, according to Herodotus, in the last battle of Plataea, they lost 350,000 men. Of course, not. The Spartans killed 350,000 men.
If they were the saviors of Greece, how are they funded in the Peloponnesian War by the Persians?
They were funded to take down the Athenians because they thought the Athenians were a big threat than the Spartans, because the Athenians had more territory in like Ionia.
And while that's happening, who is really in charge? Like, who's overlord of Macedon and I don't remember. There's another one. Thessaly, I think. Who's the overlord of there? And some northern places above that. Persia.
Oh, Macedon?
Persia conquered that. They conquered Thessaly. They burned Athens to the ground. So, really, if Persia's goal wasn't to conquer Greece, which it doesn't seem like it was, what did the Spartans save?
They saved themselves.
The loss of Thermopylae.
I mean, you can't say that the Persians weren't trying to conquer Greece.
You can.
What you mean? That's the whole Peloponnesian War, was them invading, trying to.
That was the Greco-Persian War, for one.
I mean, yeah, the Greco-Persian War. That was the entire plan.
Was to punish Athens.
Was to take over Greece.
Was to punish Athens. And they did. Hard.
I'm pretty sure they were trying to control all of Greece. In the Greco-Persian War?
Nope. Just wanted to punish Athens.
Where is that at?
Remember
What
Darius,
source?
the Athenians.
What source is that?
Herodotus. Darius
Bro,
would
that
have a
man's
slave
a
whisper
fool.
in his ear. Remember Darius. The Athenians. Because they helped in the Ionian revolt. Otherwise, Greece wouldn't have been a problem. Didn't give a shite about Greece.
But at the end of the day, if they're gonna burn Greece, that was the reason why the Spartans that's why they killed the ambassadors or the messengers because the Persians sent the emissaries to request surrender or earth and water. So they were trying to they came to take over
That's what
part
they
over.
did whenever they met a new area. They requested earth and water, which is what you do. That's what you do when you're the world superpower. But it doesn't matter. You're talking about the freaking Greco-Persian Wars. That's not the subject. Subject is Neo-Assyrian Empire versus Sparta. Stop deflecting.
No, I'm just painting a picture of how great Sparta was. Putting on
Sparta.
the Spartans, they were better than a lot of the all. I mean, obviously better than everywhere else the Persians had conquered
Yeah,
at the
absolutely.
time.
They were better than the Persian Empire at that time. The mostly non-professional Persian Empire. They were better than the rest of the Greeks. The mostly non-professional Greeks. As soon as they came up against other professionals, they lost. It was game over. Their entire identity shattered. And that was 300 professionals that Thebes had. Now imagine what they're going to do with 30,000 on the low end. I'm not even giving them a whole army. That's in like the worst circumstances. What are they going to do against 50,000 professionals? 100,000 professionals? What are they going to do? With iron weapons and armor, not bronze.
Were these guys trained? Were they?
That's what comes with the territory of being a professional.
Yeah, I guess. What tactics did they use?
We don't know.
Because a phalanx, phalanx can tear a bunch of shit up.
I mean, it's basically they used from their inscriptions, their tablets from their steles. They used their infantry used the exact same formation: a shield wall, spears poking out from it. We don't know their battlefield tactics. That was like 2,000 plus, more than 2,000 years ago, and just like we don't really know the battlefield tactics of the Greeks, and this was way further away than that.
Yeah.
Their infantry, obviously, they're heavy infantry, much like the Greeks. Could even call them hoplite. Heavy spearmen, at least. And then more. When the Spartans, all they had was their heavy infantry and then some slaves.
All right. So you're telling me that the Assyrians, they had this professional military, but it sounds like their tactics wasn't as good, or
we don't know,
or the Persians who came after them, obviously, time difference, they would have adopted, or first of all, the Persians, you can say whatever, but they beat them fighting, so they would either adapt it to what the Assyrians were doing.
Now the Persians, because the Persians, the Medes, the Scythians, the Elamites, and a bunch of other people. It wasn't just the Persians, and the Persians didn't take over power immediately either. There was a Median Empire, and there was a Neo-Babylonian Empire. And then the Median Empire fell. Then the Neo-Babylonian Empire fell, and then it was Persia. So, and we don't even know. I genuinely wish we knew the battlefield tactics of the Neo-Assyrians, but we don't. But we also don't know the battlefield tactics of the Spartans.
We know one was greater than the rest, which was the phalanx, which was how they won like most of their battles. Because, I mean, in hindsight, the phalanx is like, okay, we heard it so many times, but back then it was probably like, like critical to their victories, or we wouldn't have heard it so many times.
If you look at the beliefs, the Neo-Assyrians were using a similar formation for their infantry. You could call it a phalanx. You could call it a spear wall. They were using the exact same thing. So, battlefield tactic for battlefield tactic. You take both of them, right? Both of them professionals. One equipped with iron, one with bronze. Whatever. Say they're even. Then, you got to take their cavalry versus their cavalry. Oh, wait. Sparta doesn't have that. So, then you take their archers. Oh, wait. Sparta doesn't have that. Then their chariotry. Sparta doesn't have that either. Neither do any of their Greek allies. Except for like a couple places. In those couple places, is their cavalry going to be able to stand up to the Neo-Assyrians who are used to fighting the steppe people? Not a chance.
Interesting. Just one more point to put the Spartans, give them the appreciation they deserve. Obviously, Alexander was gonna, maybe he wasn't thinking about, for some reason he didn't take over Sparta completely. He left them alone, basically. At all the other Greeks, he left Sparta alone. So it wasn't worth the time, it wasn't worth the manpower. Something, for some reason, he didn't. But he wanted to take over the entire world. And he wanted to take over Persia first. So he goes over there, destroys the Persians, great empire, but Sparta wasn't worth his time. That says something to Sparta's greatness.
When he conquered Persia, all of Greece shared in the spoils of the conquest of Persia, except for who?
That's a good point.
Exactly. There's a famous quote. When Philip was going to invade Sparta, he said, would you rather I come as friend or foe? And the Spartans sent back, we'd rather you don't come at all. And obviously Philip didn't like that. He said, if I have to invade, something to the effect, this isn't a direct quote, if I have to invade, there will be no memory of Sparta. I will kill all your men and women. I'll sell your children into slavery, and I'll burn there will be no memory of you. And the Spartans
wait.
Back a one-word reply.
Yes.
If.
They were Chads. The first Chads of history. I'm calling it.
Now, those are pretty cool quotes. Let me show you a real quote.
Once again, it shows how feared and respected the Spartan military was. And they didn't have to fucking slaughter everybody. Just straight military. They were respected on that battlefield.
Ashurbanipal. Their dismembered bodies I fed to the dogs, swine, wolves, and eagles, to the birds of the heavens and the fish in the deep. What was left of the feast I ordered them to be cast upon the heaps. Balls. Sennacherib. I cut their throats like lambs. I cut off their precious lives as one cuts a string. Like the many waters of a storm, I made their gullets and entrails run down upon the wide earth. My prancing steeds, harnessed for my riding, plunge into the streams of their blood as into a river. The wheels of my chariots, which bring low the wicked and the evil, were bespattered with the blood and filth. With the bodies of their warriors I filled the plain like grass. Their testicles I cut off, and I tore off the privates like the seeds of a cucumber. Bar. Ooh, that's cute. That's cute.
Them boys had demons.
They were demons. They knew, dude. They were them, and they knew they were them. I'm trying to find... Dan Carlin has this quote. Allegedly from a...
Who were they trying to convince? Themselves? Or?
We're not trying to convince anybody. They just want to let these niggas know this is who we were. This is what we did. That's Neo-Assyria. I swiftly marched to Babylon, which I was intent upon conquering. I blew like the onrush of a hurricane and enveloped the city like a fog. I completely surrounded it and captured it by breaching and scaling its walls. I did not spare his mighty warriors, young or old, but I filled the city square with their corpses. I turned over to my men to keep the property of their city, silver, gold, gems, all the movable goods. My men took hold of the statues of the gods in their city and smashed them. They took possession of the property of the gods, the statues of Adad and Shala, gods of the city of Ekalati, that Marduk-Nada-Ahi, king of Babylonia, had taken to Babylonia at the time of Tiglath-Pileser I, king of Assyria. I brought out of Babylon after 418 years. I returned them to the city of Ekalati. The city and houses I completely destroyed from foundations to roof and set fire to them. I tore down both inner and outer city walls, temples, temple towers made of bricks and clay, as many as there were, and threw everything into the Arthur Canal. I dug a ditch inside the city, and thereby leveled off the earth on its site with water. I destroyed even the outline of its foundations. I flattened it more than any flood could have done, in order that the site of the city and its temples would never be remembered. I devastated it with water, so that it became a mere meadow. So Neo-Assyria, they didn't make threats. They just did. Bars, bars, bars.
They were documenting.
You're damn right.
You know what the Spartans were documenting? You see this flesh? These are our walls. That's Chad. That is Chad.
You know what walls are really good for? Defense. Not that great at conquering. Where's their empire?
Got him!
Good one, good one, good one. Once again, the Athenians were a great opponent. And who won in the end?
They were a great opponent for the Spartans.
For the Spartans. Okay. Okay. For the Spartans and the Persians.
Also,
And the Persians.
a literal act of God caused the Spartans to win. Wasn't there, I don't know, a plague that killed like a fifth of Athens' population? Something like that.
Yeah. They the Spartans were scared of them. The plague was so bad that the Athenians couldn't even hire mercenaries. No one would fight for them. It was bad. It was bad. But that just goes to show, you know, maybe you didn't need a great empire, because a great kingdom, because widespread disease might spread in that shit, and you're all fucking dead.
Did in Neo-Assyria, so. When it comes down to it, Neo-Assyria does everything Sparta does, and then more. You even take, I will say, you kind of asked earlier, if it's the Neo-Assyrian Empire at its height versus the Greeks of the Greco-Persian War, in the Greco-Persian War, Greece gets rolled hard.
Emotional damage!
Interesting. With no navy.
So far as...
Well, I guess we can give them a navy since it's fantasy, but...
Wouldn't even need a navy. They're gonna walk across the Hellespont again.
Well, I guess that's fair due to the numbers. That's probably why the Greeks or the Spartans never fielded a large army, because where they came from wasn't a bunch of people. And because of that, they fought differently, which was obviously better than the rest of the world.
It was
more innovative.
It's better than the rest of Greece.
Well, just infantry wise.
It was better than the rest of Greece.
I mean, Spartans probably had the best infantry in the world at that time, would you say?
At that time.
They didn't have the numbers, but they had the best tactic and the best training. Yeah, at that time, yeah.
tactics. We did like.
They were better than the Immortals, wouldn't you say? The Spartans were
I
better
don't think
than.
we can say that either.
I don't know. Did they ever like fight head to head?
I
The
don't know.
Spartans.
That's what I'm saying. I don't
The
know.
Immortals were at Thermopylae.
Do we even know if the Immortals existed?
The Immortals were at Thermopylae, I
Do we
believe.
even know if they existed? I think that's probably the bigger question. Maybe they did. But okay,
Yeah,
maybe they did.
yeah.
But we don't know. Like, we know that at Thermopylae they like fortified the pass. But we don't know how the Spartans fought. Like, besides phalanx. Well, we know like Tagira. But we don't know anything else besides that. We don't really know anything about the Neo-Assyrians except for like from what remains we have, like their steles and whatnot. And it shows their infantry fighting in the exact same way. And they have heavy infantry. But they also have cavalry and archers and chariots. And lighter infantry. I think you may have backed the wrong horse on this one. I think when like really looking at it, this is one of those battles that most people think is going to go one way, but when you really look at it,
Yeah.
really not.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give it to them. I'll concede, and it's hard to say the Spartans would beat those numbers. It's hard to say. The Syrians, obviously, they had a great military. They had a great nation. They could keep other nations that they conquered under them for longer. They could outright totally defeat those nations and keep them, unlike the Spartans, making coalitions and making peace treaties. But I will say the Spartans had maybe, if not a better change in the history, changing the tide of history, changing the course of history than the Neo-Assyrians. They played a big role in today's society. I don't know first of all, every little kid grows up wanting to be a Spartan. Not just because it's Western history.
Literally.
It's because every single person that wrote about the Spartans, Herodotus, don't matter if they're from Sparta, doesn't matter from Athens, doesn't matter from the East. They said the Spartans were great. Even the Romans said the Spartans
Who from the East
were.
wrote about the Spartans?
I don't know, but
their only reason is because of 300 and because they're from the West. Even in Western history, I wouldn't even put Spartans in the top 5. Like, they were good warriors for like that particular time and area in history. You take them out of that, not at all. They're not like Alexander's army, who could go back and forward 1,000 or more years and still run the field. He wasn't like the Roman. They weren't like the Romans that could go back and forward, run the field. Or the Spanish Empire. It wasn't like that at all. I think Sparta was a lot like Alexander by being a product of their time, as evidenced by the second there were other professionals that they had to fight in Greece, it was game over.
I don't know about the second. Other professionals. Because Alexander, like I said, he didn't want no piece of the Spartans for some reason.
The band did. Thebes did. And they whooped their asses.
I don't know how they let that shit slide, honestly.
What else?
They got weak, bro.
Leuctra, they lost their king and like a percentage of Spartiates. I don't know what percentage, but it was a lot of Spartan citizens.
Look. The Spartans, I feel like they were training for their one. Thermopylae was their one. They're waiting for their. I mean, they weren't scared of death. Thermopylae was their. That was their. That's what made them. They trained for Thermopylae. All the years leading up to Thermopylae was training for Thermopylae, and they set their mark on history. and they set a story better than anything the Assyrians. The Spartans, the Battle of Thermopylae is one of the greatest last stands. Professional soldiers stand against a large army of slaves and professionals, and the biggest empire in the world. Uh, I feel like they served their purpose.
That's a great
And
piece of propaganda. Beautiful. But if
Jimmy,
you talk about impact on world history, Neo-Assyria had the first professional military in human history. So I think that's a bit more of an impact on human history than a failed last stand. Neo-Assyria also, besides that, the proliferation of iron weapons, little bit bigger than whatever Sparta did. Sparta was a part of the importance of Greece to Western history. I will give it that. Neo-Assyria was important to human civilization as a whole. But also, that's really not what we're talking about. We're talking about the military. And you've already admitted Neo-Assyria had the better military because the god Asher commands it.
I'll give it the numbers because of the numbers.
You can say
But
it's just the number. It's not just the numbers.
I mean, we don't know too much about the tactics, but the Spartans,
The
from
Spartans,
my knowledge right now, I would say the Spartans had better tactics.
their tactic was the phalanx. And I told you like 4 times. The Neo-Assyrian heavy infantry tactic was the same thing. Multiple rows of heavy spearmen with a large shield.
But the Spartans, it wasn't just the phalanx.
It was.
They're great at positioning, which looks obvious right now. I mean, just go hold the pass, but probably revolutionary.
Probably wasn't. Everybody, there are so many people that have held the pass in history. It's just that one is popular. For some reason, it very much should not be. It bought Greece like 3 days. It was literally, if you really look at it, it was inconsequential. And people talk about, oh, there were only 300 Spartans. There were more than that. But also, there were 1,000 other Greeks. And if there were 7 helots for every Spartan, there were more than 2,000 helots at Thermopylae. So it's like 4,000, 5,000 Greeks at that famous last stand of the 300 Spartans.
They got the job done.
It very much didn't. They lost.
I mean, according to Herodotus, they killed 300. I mean, 5 billion Persians.
Yeah,
so
that's cute. And according to never mind. The Neos
also
say, I'm going to get biblical, or that's biblical. They're talking about Neo-Assyria. It doesn't get much better than that when it comes to propaganda. The Bible. As we know, when the Jews don't like something, it's not good for you. And they did not like the Neo-Assyrians. Ask Kanye.
You said it only halted the advance for 3 days. I think the Persians was there for like a week. But at the end of the day, if the Spartans didn't stop them for that week, who knows? I think there's a story of Persians' fleet getting destroyed at sea during that storm. They might have missed that storm if they were there, and then the Athenians might not have had the courage or the time to then muster their army, their naval army, together and beat the decisive.
A naval army is a fleet.
Yeah. Get their fleet together.
Who knows what would have happened? I mean, maybe if they didn't have those 3 days or a week, maybe they could have, I don't know, burned Athens to the ground. Oh, wait, they did. And that doesn't even matter. You keep trying to, it's not Persia. And that's what it's not Persia. Persia was below. It was Neo-Assyria minus. It was a couple levels below Neo-Assyria. That's why it took this massive coalition to beat the Neo-Assyrians. And it wasn't like they beat the Neo-Assyrians at their height either. Neo-Assyria, as I said, just finished a civil war. That took the greatest army in human history up to that time. The only professional military in the world that we know of. Ripped it in half.
So they're fighting each other?
Yup. And then this massive coalition of people. And
they're like, nah, gang, we're not gonna let y'all come back. This is our time to strike.
That's what it took. That's what it took.
Well,
when you look at it, when you take away the hype in 300 and you look at it realistically, look at the numbers, look at the feats, look at the stats, Sparta's taken a big L, which is why I chose this battle so eagerly.
I'm gonna choose this battle. Okay, a large scale battle, Neo-Assyrians might win. My battle, how about 300 Battle of the Champions, like Thebes? I don't think the Neo-Assyrians 300 would match up against 300 Spartans. How about that?
I think those 300 horse archers are just going to ride circles around them.
Nah, they better bring some ammo. It's gonna take a lot of ammunition to kill 300 Spartans on horse.
Iron beats bronze.
You know, what's the other quote? They fight in the shade. You know, them boys not scared.
That was Persia. And that's never a fight that's going to happen when you got an empire v empire or empire versus city-state. If Neo-Assyria is coming, they're not, oh, let's have honor. They're going to come the Mongol way. We're coming to win. They're going to come like the Romans, Bellum Romanum. Except it's war the Neo-Assyrian way. War at a professional, national scale. All of Greece couldn't compete with that.
Man, Syrians were gay, fool.
Not as gay as the Spartans. And the Spartans like to diddle kids, too. So I don't think that's the argument you want to go down. If you were a man in Neo-Assyria and you were caught butt-fucking another man, if he was of a lower class, that's fine. But if he was of a higher station or the same station than you, both of you would be put to death because that's gay. In Sparta, that's fine. Now tell me who's gay. Which is fine if you're into that.
No, that is pretty gay, fool.
Sure is. And they didn't kids.
And they wanted men more than their wives. It's crazy. That is crazy.
Neo-Assyria had harems. Sparta didn't. Sparta had boyfriends. Got anything else, or are you ready to give me the dub on this one?
I'll give you the dub. The dub.
I think that's 2-0 me. But
What?
Viewers, we
I
want
say that's 1-1.
No. We want to know what you think, viewers. We want to know who won Genghis Khan versus Alexander the Great, and we want to know who won Neo-Assyria versus Sparta. We're going to try, big news, we're going to try and post 2 videos a week. Please like and subscribe. That'd be great. Follow us. Follow me on TikTok. Sneaky_F_Mel.
Shout out to Alexander. Shout out to Leonidas. Leonidas.
Leonidas.
Leonidas.
You want to give your socials out or anything?
Man, go follow me, King Cardin, on the IG, on the TikTok. That's where we're popping that on the TikTok. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
If we don't have 2 a week, it's his fault. I just want to.
No.
Hooray!